At its peak in 2004, Blockbuster operated 9,094 stores globally and employed 84,300 people. The company generated billions in annual revenue. By 2010, it was bankrupt. This wasn't a sudden collapse. Blockbuster's decline followed rational decisions made under a changing cost structure and evolving market incentives. What looked like dominance became constraint. What appeared to be strategic caution was structural paralysis. This is how Blockbuster's success created the conditions for its failure. Founded in 1985 by David Cook in Dallas, Blockbuster differentiated itself from independent video stores through deeper inventory, standardized layouts, and reliable availability of new releases. The company expanded rapidly, becoming a national brand in a fragmented industry. The business model was straightforward: parental fees and late fees. In 2000, Blockbuster collected nearly $800 million in late fees, 16% of total revenue. But the cost structure was rigid. Retail leases, staffing, physical inventory, and distribution networks created high fixed costs that didn't scale down easily. Profitability depended on maintaining high in-store volume. If foot traffic declined, margins compressed quickly. Blockbuster had built a business designed for stability, not flexibility. Through the 1990s, Blockbuster's scale delivered advantages: negotiating power, brand recognition, operational efficiencies. But it also created organizational inertia. Capital allocation prioritized store growth over experimentation. Corporate leadership focused on protecting late fee revenue. Store managers were evaluated on same-store performance. Retail lease obligations mounted, creating commitments that assumed continued growth. Scale shifted from competitive moat to structural constraint. The company had built a model requiring continuous, stable demand to justify its overhead. Any disruption would expose vulnerability. The transition from VHS to DVD lowered distribution costs dramatically. In 1997, Netflix launched with mail-order DVD rentals, flat monthly pricing, and no late fees. The model was slower but more convenient. No store visits, no late fees, no return pressure. Blockbuster was aware of the threat. Leadership understood consumer preferences were shifting, but any meaningful pivot towards subscription pricing directly threatened existing revenue. Late fees funded operations. Moving to flat pricing would eliminate them. Encouraging online behavior would reduce store traffic and undermine the economics of thousands of locations. In 2000, Netflix offered to sell to Blockbuster for $50 million. Blockbuster declined. Acquiring Netflix meant absorbing a money-losing startup with a business model incompatible with core operations. It would require dismantling the profit engine funding the entire company. Blockbuster attempted incremental responses, online experiments, limited subscriptions, but without full commitment. Every digital dollar weakened the legacy model. This wasn't a failure of strategy. It was a structural bind. By the mid-2000s, broadband adoption increased. DVD logistics improved, and subscription loyalty grew. Netflix scaled digitally with low marginal costs. Blockbuster absorbed the full weight of its physical infrastructure. The competitive asymmetry became stark. Same-store sales declined while fixed costs remained. Pricing power eroded. The window for recovery narrowed. In January 2005, Blockbuster eliminated late fees, lowering operating income by $250 million to $300 million. The company expanded online offerings and introduced hybrid models, allowing online rentals to be returned in stores. These efforts were genuine, but too late. Netflix had established a loyal subscriber base. Competitors had shifted expectations. Blockbuster's attempts were constrained by insufficient capital, entrenched competition, and the continued drag of physical overhead. On September 23, 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $900 million in debt, facing competition from Netflix, Redbox, and video-on-demand services. Blockbuster's decline wasn't driven by ignorance. Leadership understood the threat and attempted responses, but they operated under constraints that made transformation nearly impossible. Fixed costs limited flexibility. Incentive structures reinforced the legacy model. Capital allocation had locked the company into infrastructure that couldn't pivot. The insight: dominant firms often struggle not because they fail to see change, but because adapting requires dismantling what made them successful. That's this week's story from Capital Storybook: how Blockbuster's success created the constraints that made adaptation nearly impossible. If you're interested in more analysis of business decisions, market structures, and the incentives that drive outcomes in finance and industry, subscribe for new stories every week. Leave a comment if there's a particular case or company you'd like us to cover. Thanks for watching.